Hey everybody, what is up? Welcome back to Final Trade. Another tiny whiteboard video with blasted out shadows. So I had a patron ask me about my credit card use in the business. Just what cards do I have? Why do I have them? How do I use them? And then how do I use credit in general? So I figured I'd just make a video for everybody. So first off, you're going to have a bank account for your business. And you can get a debit card and you can get a credit card there. Now, when you open a bank account, they just kind of throw a debit card at you, and I've never used mine for my business bank account, but I think a credit card with the bank that you have your business account with is useful for things like recurring charges, specifically things like Patreon. Join the Patreon, guys, and TCG Infinite subscription, things like that, just so there's no so you don't cancel the card and then forget that you had some recurring payment linked to it. Even though the cash back on these, they'll generally be like 1% to 1.5%. They're not great. It's better than nothing. But it just makes it easy to keep track of those kind of things so you don't have some subscription lapse. And so for the most part, I don't use that card for anything else really. Once in a while, you'll get a special offer from your bank and they'll have some juicier card or they'll have some other introductory offer. And, I'll talk about those in a little bit. Second up, eBay MasterCard. Yeah, I charge the hell out of this one. So this one is 3 1/3 cash back. Yeah, that's really nice. So, you go onto eBay and you're buying stuff from P-Football Pete and Cataclysm Collectibles and Anderson Authentics and Flipside Gaming and all of those, and you're getting 3 1/3 cash back. So that's really nice, and the money comes through as credits on eBay, which you then use against some purchase in the future. So you definitely want one of those if you're buying a lot of TCG stuff because a bunch of those distributors have retail arms on eBay and they give amazing deals. Some of those distributors have special agreements with eBay to waive some or all of their seller fees on certain items, and so they can just give unbelievable prices there. Amazon, yes. Now, several things to talk about here. This is going to be 3 to 5%, and it depends. And the reason it depends is because you, of course, have your Amazon business account so that you can get tax exemption on appropriate items that you buy through Amazon, so you don't pay sales tax on those items. Now, you will not necessarily have Prime Business, or Business Prime, I think they call it. Now, they have something called an Amazon Duo account, and that is if you have a personal Prime account, then for free, you can get a business duo account linked with your Amazon business account. And so that gives you Prime on the business side. If you do that, you get the 5% cash back on anything you buy on Amazon. And if not, if you just have a regular Amazon business account and you've got the Amazon card flavor of the month, then you just get 3% back. Now, the thing that's kind of obnoxious is if you're like me and decades ago, you and your wife opened Amazon accounts, and then at some point Prime came along and your wife subscribed and then shared it with you, then I don't personally have a Prime account. I get it shared from my wife who does it, and then Amazon considers that as me not having an account. So Duo isn't free, and I don't know, I might just need to call customer service. I'll take care of that at some point. But if you're in that situation or you're some weirdo who doesn't have Prime at your house, then you can get a Amazon Duo account for your business for something like $70 a year for the base level of Business Prime, which basically gets you the free quick shipping, and it gets you that 5% cash back instead of 3%. And so you just have to look, are you ordering enough off of Amazon every year through your business in order to make that extra 2% cash back come out to more than you're paying for the Prime account. The break even on that is somewhere around $3,500. So if you're like me and you buy a bunch of your shipping supplies like top flight envelopes and occasionally the bigger team bags for doing your replenishment invoices on TCG Player, or bubble wrap, things like that, bubble mailers, all of those kind of shipping supplies that you might be buying on Amazon, maybe you'll get up to that $3,500 break point. Of course, Amazon dumps help, and it just depends on how hard you're buying into those Amazon dumps. So, now PayPal. Yes, PayPal's got a great one. And it's 3%, and it's anytime you pay with PayPal. And now you may be thinking, Craig, I recognize a lot of websites I buy from, I can check out with PayPal. Yeah, and you can get 3% back, including USPS.com when you order stamps to ship singles that you're mailing to people. So you can get 3% back, and it works anywhere that you check out with PayPal. So that's really cool. Also, if you're a Ruby patron and you're paying through PayPal, you'll get the 3% back. And you may be looking at this and saying, Craig, do you have 4 credit cards for your business? And I'm like, yeah, I have like 6. It's not a big deal. You just set up on a calendar with reminders of when the pay dates are. You can also just have the credit card companies move your pay date if you wanted all the pay dates to line up. I don't really want that, but I'm not married to either idea of having pay dates sprinkled throughout the month or pay dates all at once. It's kind of just a personal thing. I don't think there's a best way to do that. Maybe you could convince me there's a best way to do that, but I'm not convinced yet. But yeah, you have a bunch of credit cards and you just pay them all off every month and you get cash back for the various things that you buy at various places. So, something else to talk about is using these credit cards as a revolving line of credit. And something that businesses will have is revolving line of credit, sometimes called a revolver. It's where they go to a bank and they say, month to month I may need $1 million. And let's say that they're a business and they build boats. Okay, they build small boats. And so they need to buy things like sheet metal, and they need to buy motors, and they need to buy all these other parts and wiring and everything else for the boats. But, they can turn those parts around and they can assemble boats and they can sell them into the market pretty quickly. But they just need the cash flow to be able to churn through materials and turn them into boats and sell them. And so what a revolving line of credit allows them to do is have access to that cash. And so they'll negotiate with a bank and they'll say, I need up to $1 million at any given time. And so the bank will say, okay, you can draw up to $1 million, and here's the interest rate that we assess you based on your credit worthiness. And every day the bank will say, how much money have they drawn from that line of credit? And then they'll calculate the daily interest that day. And so at any given time during a month, the company might draw money in order to buy the materials, and then say a couple weeks later, as they sell the boats off to their dealer network, they would pay money back to the bank and pay off the line of credit, or pay off some of it or all of it or whatever. And so you can do that in your business and use the credit cards as essentially a revolving line of credit. Now, the thing is, credit cards don't have really great interest rates. They're pretty bad. I mean, they're always like 20, 25, 30% interest rates. So you don't want to use those cards, but you can almost always find credit cards with introductory offers that are 0% for 12 months. Or PayPal has a credit card. Now, it is not this PayPal credit card, it's a different one, but it's a PayPal card that gives you 6 months of 0% interest on every purchase forever. Meaning that every time you make a purchase, that purchase has 0% interest for 6 months. So let's say you were a box breaker and you saw that there was some great deal on a particularly juicy box with a lot of inverted EV. You could go out with that PayPal card and you could buy 5 cases of it. Okay, 30 boxes, and let's say that comes out to, something like $2,500. So you put it on that card, and then you do all the breaking down, the sorting, the listing, the selling, the shipping, and you get paid by TCG Player, and then as the money from TCG Player starts coming in, you pay off that credit card. And so you've essentially used that credit card as a revolving line of credit. And that's something I do in this business. There was a time earlier this year, maybe January or February, I got a Chase Inc. business card, and at the time the offer was something like 0 interest for 12 months and 1.5% cash back on everything. And then they also had a 10% bonus if you spent $7,500 in the first 3 months that you had the card. And that's more money than I spend normally in this business. So what I did is I just brought some spending forward in time. So spending that I probably would have done later in the year, I just moved that earlier in the year so that I could hit that $7,500 break point to get the $750 bonus. But since then, because the 0% interest is still ongoing right now, I've been using that card as a revolving line of credit, and it's worked really well. Like recently, I bought, I think, 20 boxes of Jumpstart 2020 to open to sell for singles. So I just put the charge on that card and then put the cards up on TCG Player after I got them and sorted them. And then I've been selling through, and you get the first couple of payments back from selling those through the direct program, and you use that to pay off the credit card. And so, if you are responsible and you can control your spending and you are financially conservative, then there's a lot of room to use credit cards with 0% interest rates to act as a revolving line of credit for your business. There's also opportunities to exploit those introductory offers, and going back to what I said earlier about that Chase Ink card, I mean essentially $750 cash back if you spent $7,500 within the first 3 months. And those kind of variables will change all the time depending on what the federal funds rate is, on what the economy looks like, on what consumer spending looks like, on just how the whole macro situation looks. And those kind of juicy 10% back deals, I haven't seen those more recently, and certainly not ones of $750. The kind of offers that I get in my mailbox nowadays are things like $200 back when you spend $4,000 in the first 3 months. And so the ratio is not as high right now. And some of them are just other offers like, you can't get cash back. You can only get airline miles that are non-redeemable for cash. Or I've seen a lot of offers recently that are refer other business owners and you'll get huge bonuses. Obviously, I don't really know a lot of other business owners that are asking me like, refer me for a card. But if you want to go through the effort of applying for a card, holding it for a while, fulfilling whatever is required to get those introductory offers, and then eventually canceling the card, yeah, go ahead. I probably won't be doing that a lot in the future. I think it's easier just to use them as a revolving line of credit. And, you have to be conservative financially. And I really want to underscore that because a lot of credit cards give you a lot of opportunity to be stupid and make bad decisions. And if I look at, the 4 or 5 or 6 credit cards that I have for Final Trade, I don't know, there's probably something like $30,000 to $40,000 of available credit. And then if I look at what I actually owe at any given time, it's probably never more than $3,000 or $4,000. And so I absolutely do not advocate opening a credit card, seeing that you got $12,000 of credit on it, and then YOLOing and spending all of it on Jumpstart 2020 and hoping to turn that around and pay it off. Because those are the kind of bets that when one eventually turns against you, will wipe you out. And so you have to be very careful about that. For me, it's easy. I've always been very financially disciplined, and it's worked out really well for me over the years. And so it's not hard for me to just kind of ignore the fact that, yeah, there may be $30,000 of total credit out there, but I don't ever get deeper in credit cards than I can pay off with my personal finances within a couple of months. And so, that's important. A lot of these cards with these particular deals, and especially the introductory offers like 0% for 12 months, those offers go away if you miss a payment. And so on the on the PayPal card that has 0% on each individual purchase for 6 months, you lose that 0% and they back assess you what would have been the accumulated interest if you don't pay off those charges in 6 months. And so you really have to stay on top of that. If you're the kind of person who just occasionally forgets to pay a bill or pay a credit card or something like that, this probably isn't for you, because you have to have a 100% success rate paying these things on time and staying ahead of it and monitoring your cash flow. And one thing that I do is about once a month, I just go looking. I go into my business bank account and the checking account, and I say how much cash is in there, and then I say how much do I owe on each of the cards for the business, 4 or 5 or 6 or however many cards there are. How much do I owe on each one of them? And I just make a list of that to kind of roughly assess what is the current total cash position of the business. And then I'll also look at things like TCG player seller payments that are pending. So, they aren't guaranteed. I guess every single buyer could file a complaint and say they never got their cards. But for the most part, when they are pending payments from TCG player, they're nearly as good as cash. They are nearly cash equivalent for your business. And so I'll add up that, and I'll take all those things together, and I'll just say, what is the net cash position of the business? Do I have enough cash up here to pay off all of these things at this moment? Or if I don't, how much am I down? And so you need to stay on top of that, and you need to be disciplined enough in the way you run your business, in the way that you spend the money, and the way that you account for things, so that you can actually figure out what is the current health of the business cash-wise. You need to stay on top of all of that stuff, because as your business grows and it gets bigger and bigger, the stakes of not staying on top of that become more and more harsh. You can imagine, my little hobby side business of final trade. I'll probably do $25,000 or $30,000 of revenue this year. It's not very big, but I have patrons who talk about doing $500,000, $1 million revenue, and for them, if they're not staying on top of this, things can get dangerous in short order. When they're talking about 10, 20, 30 times the numbers that I do as a side business, then, well, the risk is 10, 20, 30 times higher. So keep all of that in mind. And one last thing about how you use all of these cash backs that you get. When you're buying stamps using your PayPal card and you get 3% cash back, and all your eBay purchases are 3 1/3, and Amazon's that big 5% on Amazon dumps from Watsy. I do not factor in those cash backs in my calculations of basis cost for a product. I don't factor them in when I'm personally evaluating whether or not a box is worth buying to open for singles and sell. I don't factor it in as what is my actual cost of some activity in the business. Instead, I ignore the fact that I get those back. And you can choose which way you do it, and really it's just accounting preference. There's no right or wrong way to do it. But the way I see it, for me, again, being very financially conservative my whole life, is that if essentially everything I'm buying is 3-ish percent cheaper than I'm accounting for, that gives me a nice cushion in the business. It gives me a nice extra little barrier against uncertainty, because a lot of the times when I'm doing calculations of whether some box is worth opening, or I'm buying some product and maybe it'll go down and it'll be a little bit cheaper in the future, or there's some other kind of risky thing that I'm engaging in with the business, having an extra little bit of cushion underneath from this little trickle of money coming back to you is really useful. And so it gives you a hedge against that kind of uncertainty that we have in business in general and in this kind of business specifically. And so I never try to be hyper fine about calculating this and factoring it in, which credit card am I going to purchase something with, and how does that reduce my basis cost? I just kind of ignore it. And the ultimate long run effect of ignoring it is your bank account starts to have more cash in it than it did previously. So you just end up with a healthier, more robust business than before. And then you can do things like maybe engage in some more bets that you wouldn't have before, or whatever you would want to do with the little bit of extra money. But basically it gives you a little bit more security against the kind of uncertainties that we're left with when we're doing things like EV analyses, or basically just taking bets on various collectibles that we buy with this business. So I do know some people, some of my patrons, when I talk to them, they calculate this into the basis cost of, is it worth it to open this box? Again, that's fine. It's just accounting preference, how you like to do that. And ultimately, I'm probably one of the most financially conservative people you will ever meet. And I just leave this in the cushion, in the business, as a little bit of extra cushion. All right? So send me your questions. Let me know, are there any better, cool credit cards out there that I'm not getting? I know people will always talk about, I think American Express or Discover Black cards, and they're 4% back on anything, but I don't know if there's some spending requirements on that or what. I'm not really familiar with those. These work really well for me, and even having 4, 5, 6 credit cards in the business, it's really easy to just once a month go to each website and just pay it. So it's not that hard to manage. Let me know what you think, guys. Thanks to everyone who makes this content possible. Like, comment, share, and subscribe. Join me on Final Trade. Join the Patreon.